Do you see now?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right. Okay. Well, we might go through a couple of these, so if you don't mind, you know how it is. You know how we roll. Okay. Give me just one second. Let me move this to here. And yeah. Okay. Okay. Welcome back to season 5 of the SARE Ladies podcast, where we talk about real estate, representation, and rewriting the rules of wealth. I'm your host, Anita Wong, real estate syndicator, investor, and co founder of Give Rise Capital. I help people build generational wealth through multifamily and rentals nationwide. I'm also the founder of SARE Ladies, a national network for Asian women in real estate, and a proud first gen Chinese American mom working to make investing available for all.
And I'm Ashley Cow, commercial mortgage lender, investor, recovering tech employee, and avid listener of the Sarah Ladies podcast. And now your new co-host for the season.
So you may have heard Ashley before, typically with our good friend Paul Peebles, and I have just really excited to have Ashley as my new co-host because she really brings that commercial expertise as the director of Old Capital Lending, and so we're just here to talk more commercial this season. So that is really what about season 5 is going to be different. We're going to be exploring more advanced concepts, a larger focus on the steps 1 to 2 rather than the 0 to 1. We're really going to be focusing on cultural identity still and relevance to our identity to investing, but really doing some more fun pieces with the journalistic lens, which it's going to be a surprise later in the year. But today's episode is going out with a bang and it's going to hit home for a lot of people because we're talking about something that is super hard to admit and even harder to ignore: the confidence gap. So, the confidence gap refers to the disconnect between a person's abilities and their belief in those abilities. And especially when that person is fully capable, fully experienced, fully knowledgeable, but still holds back from leadership roles, high stake decisions, or visible opportunities due to self doubt. It's if it sounds like you, because it's definitely me, it's real, it's costly, and it's holding so much of us back from raising capital, scaling portfolios, or stepping into leadership.
Yes. So today's guest is Lisa Sutton Gunderson, but you may know her as Lisa Song Sutton. She is an entrepreneur, real estate investor, venture capitalist, and the first Miss Nevada of Asian descent. She's built multiple businesses, including Sin City Cupcakes, independent mailbox companies, and is a partner at the Veteran Fund. Lisa's journey spans law, pageants, public service, and startups, and she's here to share what we can do about bridging the confidence that gap that can be costing us millions. So let's get into it.
Say
Awesome.
hi, Lisa. So good to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much, ladies. Thanks for having me.
So I heard through the grapevine. I mean, we know that you're a pageant queen, and Ashley and I were joking around earlier. Like, do we refer to her as Milady, or do we
Your
refer to her?
Majesty, or
We've
Percy,
never been in the presence of a
do we wave at you
queen.
like
yeah. Always wave with the backhand, right?
okay?
Oh, okay.
Armpit out.
Okay.
But okay, good
Little
to
tip, little
know.
secret.
I heard that your mom was also a pageant queen.
Yes, yeah. She held the title in 1975.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's awesome to continue legacy.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so you started off. I mean, you became you got into the pageant industry kind of early on, influenced by your mom. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, I appreciate that my parents said, "Hey, we're going to wait to have you involved in pageants until you're an adult, until you're 18, where you can choose to be in, as opposed to putting me in, for example, when I was a child or even a teenager." I grew up with a fine arts background, so piano, flute, tap dance, right? Kind of all the things that, especially with the Asian upbringing that we're involved in with extracurriculars. But I started my pageant career when I was in college at the University of Arizona, and the Miss Arizona pageant was my first foray into things. And then it just continued to pick up from there.
Awesome. Okay. And then so after you became, you were Miss Nevada, is that kind of
Yes,
okay? Okay.
2014.
Okay. And then alongside that, you got into law.
Yes. So I finished law school in 2010 and I moved to Las Vegas after finishing school. And it was the perfect place to start a legal career. I got hired at a firm that was doing business litigation and business bankruptcy. In 2010 was especially in Las Vegas in the middle of the recession. So everyone was suing each other and everyone was filing bankruptcy. So it was the best place to learn right off the bat, jumping in with both feet.
Okay. And then, so what made you do like the pivot from being in law into the kind of your entrepreneurship?
So my first company that I started was the cupcakes, and I started that with my co-founder Danielle. And I was working at the firm at the time. I didn't start it with the idea of like, oh, I hate my job and I want to stick it to the man and I'm going to open up a business. I liked my job, and I also felt like I was like doing the right thing. Where growing up, right, it's school, school, school. You need to get good grades so you can go to college, so you can go to grad school, get out and get a good job, and then you've made it, right? That's what our parents tell us. Like once you have your good job, you've made it. And so I thought I was doing what I was supposed to be doing and what I was like meant to be doing. So I'm working my big girl job at the law firm. And Danielle called me. We're catching up on the phone, and she told me, hey, I've been making these alcohol cupcakes. And I was like, that's a genius idea. That's a great idea. You should move to Vegas and I'll help you start the company. And so she did. So it was just like really a crazy experience, kind of like on a whim. We started this company, and it was the best thing I could have done to build confidence with it. I stayed at my W-2 law firm job, and that was the money that we used to continue feeding the company. You guys know, especially in the beginning, you have no customers and you have no revenue. So you have to find a way to sustain it. And so I sustained it with my W-2. And I worked my full-time day job, kind of 5.5 days a week. And then nights and weekends, I was baking cupcakes, I was running deliveries, I was setting up events, all doing that hand in hand with Danielle to build the business.
Awesome. And so what was next? Like you did that and then you were working two jobs at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So what was like the next step in your career?
So I stayed working at the firm for the first kind of 18 months that Sin City Cupcakes was alive until we realized, wow, it can sustain on its own and it's turned into a real business. But through that experience of really just grinding it out and bootstrapping our way, I realized, wow, wait a minute, I can have my own company as long as I team up with an operations partner.
Mm.
And so I took that same model and kept just replicating that across real estate brokerage, e-commerce, obviously shipping stores, and now venture capital. And it just goes to show like there's only so much you can do on your own, especially in a business. In the beginning, you're wearing all the hats anyway. So it's not sustainable. So you have to partner with people who can help you, who want to grow alongside you, with you, and help grow the company too.
So how did you find these partners?
Actually, all of my business partners have come from my own sphere of influence. So all my business partners were people who were either already friends of mine or business colleagues of mine. And it's not necessarily that they had deep expert experience in whatever business we were going to partner on together. As a reverse example, when we started the cupcakes, I didn't even know how to bake at the time. I just felt in my bones that it was a really good idea and that it would perform really well in Vegas. And I learned. She had to teach me how to bake. And I was so relieved when we could finally start hiring bakers because I knew it would be better for the company in the long term. Um, but for example, with the shipping stores, my partner with that, her name is Sarah. She was a girlfriend of mine who I'd known for years prior before starting the business together. And it's not that she had a deep expertise in running a shipping retail store, but she did have deep expertise in customer service. And I knew that that was going to be a very important tenet foundational tenet of the business. And so I thought to myself, who in my sphere do I know, like, and trust that has really deep customer service experience? And like, I know this person would be great with customers and great with training. And I thought of her, also knowing that she didn't like the job that she had at the time. As friends, right? We were just updating each other, and she was telling me about the things she didn't like about her current position. And I was like, thinking to myself, actually, this might be a really cool opportunity for her. I should talk to her about this. And that's how that came about.
And so, okay, so you got into the cupcake business, and then you got into the mailbox business. Was that the next kind of entrepreneurship venture?
It was cupcakes and then real estate.
Okay. Yeah.
Of starting a brokerage. I had a team at Sotheby's for 5.5 years.
Okay.
With my first real estate partner. And then Kathy Quo and I teamed up, and I had brought the Christie's brand to Las Vegas at that point. And so we teamed up with Christie's, and then we acquired the Engel and Vokers brand 2022. So top of 2022. So it's been a long game in real estate as well, which has been really nice. But that was the next business after cupcakes. And then there's e-commerce brand. And then the shipping stores were 7 years ago now. So that was the kind of latest, most recent company that I started myself from scratch. The venture capital fund, which I've now been involved with for 3 years. I was a founding partner with that. They had already created the firm, and I initially came in as an LP, and I muscled my way onto the GP side. And that's a story we can delve into if you guys want. It was unexpected, but I'm so happy that I did. And that's now a huge part of my business portfolio and time management.
Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've gotten into different ventures and had the confidence to pivot into these different ventures, and also get into rooms with a lot of really talented and amazing people. So how did confidence play a role in all of that?
I think it's to start a business, or to be part of a business, or just to put yourself even in condition to take advantage of an opportunity. Your mindset has to be that you believe that you can be there first. Right? If there's any, one takeaway to take from this entire episode, it's that the mindset has to be there to believe that you have the capability to figure it out. So assert yourself, right? Without that mindset of believing that it could be a possibility for you, you won't act. And by not acting, you already take yourself out of the opportunity, whether it's even presented to you or not, right? Whether it's held up to you on a silver platter or not, you've already eliminated yourself from the opportunity because of your mindset, by not believing that it could be possible for you.
And I think I heard in another podcast, you're good friends with Ken McElroy. And I think you slid into his DMs or something like that.
Cold DM'd him on LinkedIn. I cold DM'd him on LinkedIn. Yes. That's how that, our friendship and our business relationship came about. So I had joined YPO probably 5 years ago now, the Young Presidents Organization. And in being a new member to that, I just kind of took it upon myself to figure out how else can I rapidly expand my network, because YPO is such an incredible network, an incredible global network. Obviously, I was plugged into the Las Vegas chapter because that's my home chapter. And what I started doing was looking up YPO members who were in tertiary markets around us to Vegas. Phoenix, San Diego, Orange County. And Ken was one of the people that I sent hundreds of these messages. And Ken was one of them. And the message was simply, I found them on LinkedIn, and I just said, I introduced myself. Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a new member of YPO Las Vegas. If I can ever be a Las Vegas resource to you, please get in touch anytime. I'm so happy to have joined YPO, and I'm looking forward to connecting with other members. And so I got a lot of really great positive feedback from that. that type of messaging where, I'm not asking them for anything. I'm just simply letting them know that I'm part of this trusted network that they're also part of. And everyone loves Vegas, right? So it's an easy sell of just saying, hey, like I'd love to be a resource for you anytime that you're here. And people ask all the time, restaurants, recommendations, and hotels and whatever. Instead of getting annoyed, you can just answer it and be helpful. So that was the game plan. And that's what I did. And so I sent out literally like hundreds of these messages. Ken responded back and was like, hey, like, thanks for the message. Actually, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and it seems like you have a lot of really cool stuff going on. Next time you're down in the Scottsdale area, I'd love to have you on my podcast.
Wow.
And that was that, right? So I was like, of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be there next week. I had no plans next week, right? But you,
I will be there.
so I get the message. I read that, and I was like, obviously, I already knew who he was. Like I'd heard of him, But I went back through, like really looking at his profile, looking at his LinkedIn, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is Ken McElroy. It's like the Ken McElroy. So I messaged back and I said, thank you so much. I actually, funny coincidence, I'll be in the Phoenix area next week. I would love to be on your podcast. Hopefully that works for you. Like, please let me know. And he was like, yeah, like actually Monday is the day that we film. So if you're down on Monday, you're welcome to come in and we can just knock it out then. And so of course, right, you make it happen. Right. I go down there, we film the podcast, and I'd initially had planned to just shoot right back up to Vegas. Then I drove down. So I was just going to drive back to Vegas after we were done that afternoon. And he was like, oh, do you have any plans this evening? And I was like, no, I don't have any plans, right? So I'm just trying to leave it open. So I'm like, no, I don't have any plans. He said, well, I'm going to meet some friends for dinner. You're welcome to join us. So of course I changed my plans, right? And I'm like thinking to myself, I'll just go back to Vegas tomorrow, We go to dinner. Who's there? It's freaking Robert Kiyosaki. Oh, and their Dr. Nicole Srednicki. It was the craziest night, right? Like it was the craziest dinner, like most random dinner you could possibly imagine. And I literally still have it on my phone. We took a video with Robert, and like we sent it to my mom. Like it was like the coolest thing ever. It was from cold LinkedIn message.
Wow.
I just want to put a little perspective on that because, like, okay, so of the hundreds, how many hundreds of messages did you just cold send?
I literally sent hundreds of messages. And I will say, if I didn't receive a response from every single one, it was overwhelming majority that I received a response back of, hey, welcome to IPO, or hey, thanks for the message, or, happy to accept the connection, or, like, no one was like, why are you messaging me? Or like, go away, or like, literally everyone was so nice.
I feel like that's a big barrier for me. I hate cold calling. It's like the worst part. I mean, I had, I'm still, a realtor type, and then you do cold callings, and I literally just would drag myself into my computer and have to force myself to do it. And I think a big part of that is like the proxy in your mind about how people would take to you is just so overwhelming. Yeah. But if like you let that proxy take over, you would have never met Ken, you would never met Robert. That's the crazy thing.
Exactly right. And now fast forward, not only have I been a speaker at Ken's conference that he does Limitless every year for literally like 4 years in a row. I'm invested in his multi-unit investments. I've now had a chance to have several meals with Robert in group settings, and like I know Robert Kiyosaki, right? We're not like BFFs or anything, but like I know him, and like he's recognized who I am, and it's incredible like what can come out of you just putting something out there, but trying to be of value, right? So it's not like I emailed everyone was like, hey, if you're thinking of buying or selling in Las Vegas, be sure to give me a call, right? Or, I wasn't trying to sell them cupcakes, or I wasn't trying to get them to invest in the fund, or, right? It was just simply like, if I can be a resource. And from what I've gathered, the way most people interpret that is that they're like, They hit me up for literally restaurant recommendation. I'm like also a moonlight as a Vegas concierge, right? People ask for restaurant recommendations, hotel recommendations, what shows are playing. And like, again, instead of getting annoyed by it, like I welcome it, because that is your first step in building a connection with them, is by being helpful.
And then let's just like just for an exercise, what kind of monetary value would you put to you doing that cold call? Like what would you have missed out on if you just didn't do that?
Well, first off, just monetary value, right? Of not only the people I've gotten to meet because of speaking at Limitless that have directly translated into either straight up real estate transactions, transactions with the mailbox stores and the program, opportunity to invest, right? Like I said, I've invested with him. Ken is also an LP in our fund. Literally, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in just straight monetary value, like if you made a checklist of all the transactions, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then on the network side and relationship side, arguably priceless. Again, because of the folks I've gotten to meet who are within his inner circle that have been, now introduced into my sphere. And then the relationships that have evolved from that too. There are now folks that are LPs in our fund that came through Ken, right? He was a trusted person he liked the way things were going. He brought in people from his network. It's like a snowball effect.
Yeah, I love that. And also, like, you just made yourself a bill. Oh, I just happened to be there next week, even though that was not the
Cancel all
case.
my plans. I'm going to Arizona.
Make it happen, right? Otherwise, you're going to be like, okay, great. Yeah, I will. And then either you never hit them up, or what if they're maybe 4 months later, I did happen to be down in Phoenix, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to hit them up and be like, hey, does this work? And maybe it doesn't work timing wise. And then it's a lost opportunity.
Right. Make it immediate, make it happen. Right.
Yes. And you guys know this being in real estate, right? Like time kills deals. I think time kills opportunity, time kills relationships, time kills a lot of, ancillary things as well. If you don't act, it's action at the base of it.
Yeah. And it's like, if people forget how forgettable, how much people forget, they're like, oh, when did I meet you and this and that?
Yeah.
And so that's great. I love that you just like kind of charged into it. I guess my next question, maybe just circling back to the pageant stuff, and maybe this part about like your family encourage you to be a pageant queen, and how that out there-ness, what did you learn from the pageant industry that kind of helped with that? Maybe like tips and tricks. I kind of am super interested on like how, people, if they don't even have the confidence, just show up like they do and put on the face like they do. How did that show up for you, maybe?
With the pageant, it's interesting because when you say pageants, people think of the stage portion, which is like the swimsuits and the evening gowns and maybe the onstage question as well. But they're thinking like you're on stage and it's lights on you and you're center of attention. That is all true. But if you win a pageant and you now become a title holder, you actually spend a year going around to all these different appearances in the community. I did a Boys and Girls Club tour of the whole state of Nevada. I was literally like in schools, in hospitals. I was everywhere. I was at every charity gala. I was the red carpet host for all these, like I was everywhere. And what that did was that forced me to talk to people. I was forced to talk to people. And I had nothing to sell them, right? This is not a sales position. This is not whatever. You're essentially a brand ambassador for the organization. And you choose a public service platform that's related to the community. Usually it's tied to a nonprofit. And so I was just out there getting a chance to talk to people and meet them and really like ask questions, like hear more about them, right? It wasn't me just like talking about myself and talking about all the cool things I'm doing. It was more of like, hi, like, I'm Lisa. It's nice to meet you. Where are you from? Or like, did you grow up here? Like you're asking questions to get to know people, to get them to feel comfortable with you at the event. It was very interesting dynamic that takes you out of your comfort zone, right? I'm sure you guys have all been to some sort of event or gathering where you don't really know anyone there. And like maybe your safety net of like your friend that was supposed to come with you or a significant other or whatever, and they're not there. And then you're just there and you're like, you don't really know anyone. And you feel compelled, you're like, okay, well, I've got to talk to somebody, right? It's that same way, except now you have a crown on your head. And you're hoping you don't look like a total idiot if you just like go up and start talking to somebody. And that initial fear of awkwardness, it does get easier with time. It does start to just kind of smooth out with time. But it takes reps. It takes repetition of putting yourself out there. I think one of the best things people can do is join like a Toastmasters. Get used to doing some sort of like public speaking, which is such a leap from the social stuff I'm talking about. But if you can do that, if you can get comfortable doing like a Toastmasters, doing public speaking, you will have better ease of striking up a conversation in a crowded room with someone you don't really know or don't know. And that skill will serve you.
I love the part about getting in reps because I feel like I didn't really even learn about like that sort of concept until like really late, like pretty much in my 30s, right? I feel like men are just kind of taught like you have to get out there, like, screw it up, get the reps in. But reps in itself is practice, right? It's meant to fail. It's meant to, like, you're working out in a gym, so you're preparing for the thing that you're actually going to show up for, the game that you're actually going to show up for. And so I love that. It's sort of like, don't treat everything like it's so serious,
Yeah.
like get there and just keep going. And, because that's what other people are doing or other men are truly doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think men, they just probably have a different perspective, right? I think most men are, they're used to making that first move, even in a romantic setting, right? Like, or at least I'm traditional, so like I expect a man to make a first, right? I'm not going to just like charge up to someone and be like, "Why aren't you talking to me?" or like, "Why aren't you asking me out?" Right? When I was single, so because they're already maybe either wired that way or they're conditioned that way, it does make them more bold in business. We see it, we know it. And so as women, if we are not conditioned that way and it's not pre-wired in us or whatever it is, then we have to figure out how we bring forth that skill set and still assert ourselves in a way that is still, I think authentic to us. But without doing that, you lose so many opportunities, I think.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ashley.
Okay. So, I think, well, okay. So, like, you talk about like getting into these rooms and just getting the reps in, right? And, it does take practice. And I think there's some tactical things that you shared on how to do that, right? So, just asking them questions, learning about them. So I've had an experience where I had a friend and I met up with him. He's like, "Oh, let's grab coffee." One of my other friends is going to join, kind of similar to you, and he his friend who joined was Brandon Turner, and I was like,
Oh, Brandon,
what? I
yeah.
was like, what? And so, like, in those type of situations, I was like starstruck almost, right? And I was like, oh my god, I follow this guy, and so, like, I think in certain situations it's harder to have the confidence, and so I was on almost like a one-on-one setting with Brandon Turner, and I was like, I don't even know what to say at this point. And so I feel like the different settings, I froze up, and I was like, dang, I wish I had the opportunity again. And so, like, I guess, do you have any like tactical tips, right? So it's like, if somebody who's an introvert like me, like, what are some like things that you can tactically share with us that say like help people kind of come out of their shell and break that self-doubt?
The easiest thing is just to ask questions, right? You
Mhm.
don't have to stumble in your mind around like, oh, well, what should I say? Or what should I tell him about me or tell her about me? Or you don't have to make it about you. You literally can just, where are you from? Is an easy conversation starter. Where did you grow up? obviously someone like Brandon, he's established real estate, right? Like, how'd you get into real estate? Actually, I'd love to know. I'd love to know the real estate story or backstory. Those are great questions that simply get them to share more about themselves that hopefully you can find some sort of common ground with, right? Maybe whatever it is they share, whether it's where they're from or where they grow up or the college they went to, or that their first real estate transaction or something. There's some sort of something that you can be like, oh my gosh, my cousin went to that school, or yeah, like I first got into real estate investing with the SFR as well. Oh my gosh, yeah, I had this nightmare tenant. Like whatever it is, like there's a way to find some sort of common ground, and then that's something you can share, and then hopefully that helps continue the conversation.
Mhm. I love that. It's just like you're kind of going in to find the webs of connection, just
Yeah.
like, and like not, I think the hard part about people that have a very public presence is just like you kind of put them on a pedestal as if, it's like, and you're trying to either sell them something now. And, like there's a lot of pressure, but I think it comes from like that sort of just simplicity of like, no, let's just be humans and just be, yeah, let's just be humans with each other.
And then
And like wanting to seize the opportunity, right? But like at the same time, right, you can imagine like guys like Brandon or guys like Ken, like they get pitched all the time.
yeah.
So it's like, there's something nice of like just having a normal conversation with somebody. And hopefully what that's doing is actually building a connection, right? It's building some sort of platonic relationship that then you can utilize to build upon, and then maybe there's an ask later or there's collab later, but it doesn't have to be off the bat.
Mhm. 'Cause what people remember is like the experience with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're kind of just charging in to sell them something,
It's
that's,
awkward,
it
right?
is awkward.
For
Yeah.
you, it's awkward for them. Like, right? How many times does that turn out? Well, I'm sure there's probably some percentage that does, but I would imagine for the most part, it's just awkward.
Yeah, and
So,
I think there's
yeah, go
some,
ahead.
like, authenticity behind those conversations, right? You're kinda sharing your personality with them. I remember, like, one of my mentors from a long time ago, he became my mentor, not because of, any business talk, but it was me I called something janky, and he's like, "Janky? I never heard of that word." And so, like, that was the piece that, like, when I reached back out to him, I was like, "Hey, this is Ashley. I was the girl that told you that was
The Jakey
janky."
girl.
Yeah, and then so, like, he remembered me from that, and he laughed about it, right? And we became really good friends from that. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, sometimes it just takes something small like that.
Hmm. And I love like it's sort of like authenticity is such a big player in that, right? Because if you showed up as like this polished person who wants to pitch in front of like Brandon Turner, the thousands of, pitches that he gets, like who do you turn into? Like certainly not you,
mhm.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And what they remember is actually you and those flubs or those weird kind of
Mhm.
stories, right? Yeah. Love that. So, I feel like with people, with women, I think with first gen, immigrants, I think the confidence gap is really like about, I don't know, for sure. Like, I think the cultural conditioning of being Asian and being woman is about humility and modesty and don't rocking the boat. So how do you kind of, work through that internalized perfectionism and just being like, forget it, just get the reps in, like just charge into it. Even if like a person that's in front of you, that's part of your reps is someone like Brandon Turner. Who knows?
I think it obviously there's certain personalities that will take to it easier than others, of course. But again, going back to that the mindset answer, where it takes a level of self awareness to know that we, especially with our cultural upbringing, have been either preconditioned, pre-wired, or just taught that this is how things are done or this is how things are supposed to be, and it's really up to us to decide if that's right for us or not. And in some cases, it's going to be totally right. And in some cases, it's not going to be as right. But if you aren't making up your own mind about it, then you'll never make up your own mind about anything, right? Like if you're just always relying on, what you think you're supposed to do or being who you're supposed to be instead of just authentically choosing to step into who it is that you are and who it is that you want to become.
Mm. Um, and so what would you kind of give for tips for someone that just feels stuck right now, or just feels doubtful that they can make the next step forward, or doubtful for this next hurdle? What would you kind of say to them now?
I think the best way when you are stuck on just kind of either direction or what to do next, if you can at least articulate, even if it's a big goal, figure out whatever, it's a small goal, big goal, whatever it is, but if you can articulate that and then kind of reverse engineer it and break down into like a micro step. What is like one micro thing that you could do today that would get you on the path to reaching maybe that big 5-year goal or like that big dream goal? If you aren't able to reverse engineer it and think of that micro goal, like I feel like that's just simply the first step, right? Like figure out something small that you can do. Um, Everything always starts with like that first step or like the first client or the first customer or the first dollar you earn in revenue. Everyone always starts with one, or social media, right? Everyone starts with one follower. You start with no followers, right? And then you get one. So there's always a way to break it down into like a micro step that you can kind of hang your hat on once it's accomplished. And hopefully that helps build momentum and some confidence that you can continue taking step after step after step and keep the consistency going.
I love that because I think we're always focused on that big mountain, right? And you're like looking at the giant mountain and not the first step. And so it's like even down to like for me, I've been trying to be better at going to the gym. And so like I read Atomic Habits
Yeah,
and they talk about steps and they're like, okay, just put your gym clothes on and see how you feel, right?
right.
Hop in the car, see how you feel. Get to the gym parking lot, see how you feel, and like so those little steps like all it's like a game of inches, right? So once it all collects you're like, oh shoot, I'm already at the top of the mountain. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Something as simple as that, of like putting on the gym clothes, getting in the car and driving. Well, now you're already on your way, right? So of course you're like, okay, well, I'll do the workout,
Yeah,
right? Like you're already on your way. So that's what it takes.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so we're gonna get into our rapid fire questions. Just whatever kind of comes top to mind. Okay. All right, let's go. What is the best business advice you've ever received?
Um, what immediately comes to mind is a quote that my parents taught me or told me since I was young: hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
love that.
Mm, I love that. Okay. Who is someone that you dream to meet one day?
Oh gosh. Um, oh, there's so many. I Can it be like past or present, like
Yeah, doesn't matter. Yeah.
historical? Yeah,
Hmm.
I remember reading articles and an autobiography or a biography about Sandra Day O'Connor. She was the first U.S. Supreme Court justice, and I was just so like intrigued by her kind of life and path there, and being literally like the only woman in the room over and over and over, and how that didn't seem to phase her.
I love that. Okay. Simplest, most impactful daily habit that you have.
Um, Consistency around I text my mom every morning, just to say hello, good morning. My
Hmm.
dad passed in 2020, but I used to text both of them and just a simple hello, good morning, I love you.
Hmm.
um, it just helps start the day off really nicely. You start it
Mm.
kind of with a gratitude thing too, so I like that.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Love that.
Okay. Favorite bucket list item you've accomplished?
um, just like fun. We did a ski trip to Austria a few years ago, and it was just so fun and beautiful, and it looked like out of a storybook, like Switzerland, Austria, skiing around the Alps. It was amazing.
All right. I love that. Love those answers. So we're gonna wrap it up, actually.
All right. Well, Lisa, we really appreciate you joining us today. I think this is a huge, like, powerful start to our season 5. I really liked that you talked about just mindset. I think mindset, you're your own worst enemy. You have limiting beliefs that everyone has, and so it's like, how do you go overcome that? And so I think everything starts with mindset. So I love that you shared about that. And then how do you get over those big mountains, right? And you take step by step action versus looking at the entire mountain. And I also loved, just you being able to shift and pivot so many different times into these different entrepreneur ventures, and just having the confidence behind that, and getting into these rooms with people that, are big league guys and girls and stuff. So, yeah. So if you want to see Lisa live, don't miss the anti-conference conference that we're hosting this September. So September 12th, 2025. For details on that, check our show notes.
Lisa, so if our listeners want to find you, how can they best do that?
Yes, I'm on Instagram at Lisa Song Sutton, and my website is lisasongsutton.com.
All right.
Cool. Thank you, Lisa.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. See you next time. All right.